everybody. It is 6:02 on April 23rd, 2025. Let's get it recorded, and there we go. All right, thank you all for coming to the Budget Committee meeting for the Centennial School District. Tonight, we're going to run from 6 o'clock to 7:30, and we'll call it to order. First order of business is item 1.1. We need to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
All right, approved by Rod. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Amber. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right. With that, we will move on to our next order of business. Thank you, everyone. Item 1.2, election of the Budget Committee Chair for this upcoming year. We'll open the floor for nominations.
I nominate Jess Harden to continue as chair.
Second.
Okay, that was a nomination by Pam Shields and a second by Rod Betcher. Any other nominations? All right.
I move we close
Hearing-
nomination.
I will. What's that?
Move that we close nominations.
Yep, we will close nominations, and I guess we'll take it to a vote. Everybody in favor of Jess Harden remaining the Budget Committee Chair, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right, so I will be the Budget Committee Chair. Right on. Thank you all.
Hey,
All right.
Jess,
Yes.
this is Melissa. Your sound is, I'm having some issues. It's real scratchy and you're cutting out a lot.
Ditto from me too.
Okay.
For me, it's very staticky.
Yeah.
Very staticky. All right.
Where's James when you need him?
I apologize for this.
It was fine earlier, Jess. I'm not
It-
sure if something changed when we started the election or the adoption of the agenda. But the prior conversation before, I wasn't hearing any static. But if something changed at that point in time,
Let me try this microphone. Does this work better?
Yes.
Substantially?
Yeah,
Yep.
that works a lot better.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, sorry about that, everyone.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you for calling it out, Melissa. Okay, everybody, we will move on to the next item in the agenda, item 1.3, election of the Budget Committee Vice Chair. Are there any nominations? All right.
If no one does it, I'll nominate myself so we can get going.
All right.
Second.
Second, Pam Shields as the Vice Chair of the Budget Committee.
Second.
Rod seconds. Any other nominations? 3, 2, 1. All right. Let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of Pam Shields being the Vice Chair of the Budget Committee, say aye.
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 All right.
And don't you dare get sick or anything else.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Pam Shields will be the Vice Chair. Thank you for your time, Pam. All right. We'll move on with the agenda. Reports 2.0. we're going to start off with item 2.1, which is the 2025-2026 budget message, and I believe it is going to be shared by Superintendent Mr. Owens.
All right. Thank you, Chair Harden. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight and for your engagement with the Centennial School District budget process as we develop the budget for the 2025-26 school year. The presentation that Director Southerton and I will provide tonight accompanies the proposed budget, which will be presented this evening and will be available on the district's website in the Business Services section. The actual executive summary from which this presentation is drawn is several pages in length, and we encourage you to read it after this meeting. This presentation will highlight some key points from that executive summary. You can see the agenda here on the screen, and as you can see, for this presentation, I will start with an overview of the budget, which will require me to take the first dozen or so slides. And then Director Southerton will give us a deeper dive into the development process of this draft budget. This will include a budget overview, a funding and revenue and expense outlook, the proposed budget highlights and changes from the prior year, and next steps as we work together in the development of the 25-26 budget. Somewhere within his presentation, I'm also intending to jump in and speak specifically to some reductions that we are proposing for the coming year. The proposed budget for 25-26 represents the financial and instructional goals set by the school board, the budget committee members, staff, community, and our students. This budget largely maintains the basis of our instructional and operational structures and continues investments in support of our recently developed Roadmap 27 strategic plan goals. This presentation will describe our current financial landscape and explain our revenue sources and our anticipated expenses over the next year. In addition to outlining the changes in our financial condition, we will describe Centennial's fiscal priorities and policies, as well as the 5 goals for student success and the 4 pillars describing the capabilities we will develop to achieve these goals as outlined in Roadmap 27. As we go along, feel free to either interject, and there's also going to be a pause point after the first dozen or so slides that we go through. Our commitment to maintaining robust academic programming and supporting student success remains steadfast despite financial challenges. As we enter a new biennium, state funding allocations for K-12 education remain uncertain. This requires us to make careful assumptions in our budget planning. Prudent fiscal management in recent years has bolstered our ending fund balance, providing a foundation for resilience in the face of future funding uncertainties. With anticipated roll-up costs exceeding the projected modest increase in state funding, like other districts, Centennial has been faced with a significant budget gap, necessitating strategic adjustments to maintain financial equilibrium. Careful stewardship of resources and managing programs for strong student outcomes remains our primary focus. At the beginning of the budgeting process, Centennial faced a budget shortfall of $3.5 to $4 million, or approximately 5% of the general fund. While the district has strategically planned for a graduated spend down of reserves to maintain service levels, an ongoing structural deficit of this size is unsustainable. Targeted budget reductions are necessary to ensure long-term financial stability. We'll keep it here on this slide, Director Southerton. Centennial's strategic plan, as you can see depicted here on the logo of Roadmap 27, was developed during a several months long process during the 22-23 school year. The strategic plan acts as a roadmap of our school system and where we're heading. Its primary aim is to align all stakeholders on a shared vision, common goals, and unified direction for our district's educational efforts. As an accompanying part of the process, the district commissioned a comprehensive equity audit at the district, department, and school levels to assess the extent of equitable access, opportunity, and outcomes for our students to remove barriers and plan for improvement. The audit included surveying students, families, and staff, reviewing data, and a 2-day school site visit conducted by National Center for Urban School Transformation at San Diego State University. And that included observation of student learning and staff work sessions, as well as facilitation of student, parent, and family focus groups. The tremendous input that each of these groups provided played a pivotal role in the development of our 4-year plan. This defines Centennial's long-term priorities, goals, and objectives in developing Roadmap 27 as we aligned to advance the performance and academic success of our students' experience in our Centennial schools. An important component of this plan is the profile of a graduate, representing a shared vision for the essential knowledge, skills, and competencies we want for every Centennial student to develop by the time that they graduate. In the current school year, we've convened stakeholder groups of students, staff, families, and community partners to define how these competencies will be developed in age-appropriate ways across grade bands from our youngest learners all the way through high school. We plan to share more about how Roadmap 27 goals are supported in the proposed budget as we proceed through this presentation. The State School Fund is the primary revenue source for schools in Oregon. It's funded on a 2-year cycle, which is known as a biennium. As we enter the first year of the new biennium, the governor's proposed budget includes a total state school fund allocation of $11.36 billion allocated across all school districts in the state, with 49% allocated in the first year and 51% in the second year. Those funds are provided in a stair-step fashion to account for increased costs year over year. While this represents a 6.4% increase in the state school fund in the 25-26 school year overall, due to declining enrollment, Centennial can expect only a 4.3% increase in revenue. As I mentioned earlier, Centennial's expenses continue to exceed revenues. As you likely know, through a thoughtful blend of thoughtful decision-making and challenging circumstances over the past few years, the district has developed a more robust ending fund balance, allowing the district to better withstand the impacts of future funding shortfalls and fluctuations while maintaining strong academic programming and support for students. Centennial has incorporated a planned fund balance spend down into its budget formula. The difference between the current level of service and the cost to provide those services is developing a wider and wider gap. The proposed budget continues the necessary reconciliation of that gap. The Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, also known as ESSER, which provided critical financial support during the pandemic, ended in September 2024. Centennial was able to utilize remaining ESSER funds to offset higher than expected costs for student supports and special education in the prior year. However, as these funds are no longer available, Centennial must rely on state and local funding sources moving forward. Next, we'll talk about key cost drivers, contingency, and reserves. As previously mentioned, our key cost driver as an organization is personnel. Education by its nature is a people business, so naturally the majority of a district's expenses are incurred in compensating the people who work with and support our students on a daily basis. Upward pressure on wages in recent years continues to put stress on our ability to meet all students' needs in the district. Further, Centennial continues to serve a significant number of students who require a non-traditional school and private environment or an outplacement due to medical, behavior, or other specialized needs beyond the district's service capacity. To help manage these costs, the district plans to insource 3 classrooms, resulting in an estimated savings of $750,000. Despite this effort, the overall cost of providing these essential services remains substantial, and expenses are expected to continue rising in the 25-26 school year. Following years of declining enrollment and financial strain, the district faced significant funding challenges in 2020. In response, the Board of Education, in collaboration with the Budget Committee, established a fund balance policy during the 2020-21 school year to restore fiscal stability. Through strategic planning, asset management, and difficult but necessary adjustments, the district took deliberate steps to strengthen its financial position. Now, after 5 years of focused efforts and collective support of board, budget committee, and district staff, Centennial's reserves are stable and sufficient to navigate short-term funding uncertainties. However, maintaining this stability requires continued diligence, responsible fiscal oversight, and strategic decision-making. Without careful stewardship, the financial progress achieved in recent years could be at risk, underscoring the importance of sustainable budgeting practices. Now we'll shift into our budget overview. I'll address the first bullet, which is the budget priorities developed by the school board, budget committee, and administration. Director Southerton will take the subsequent topics, which include the current financial position of the district, funding outlook, and draft budget highlights. Over the next 2 slides, you will see the framework for Roadmap 27, which includes the 5 goals for student success and the 4 pillars describing the capabilities we will develop to achieve these goals. These focal areas are reflected in the budget, and Director Southerton will highlight specific connections during his portion of the presentation. On this slide, you'll see the 5 goals for student success, which are Goal 1, building a strong foundation, pre-K to 3. Goal 2, supporting every student's well-being and inclusion. Goal 3, centering student voice, empowerment, and leadership. Goal 4, ensuring equitable access to high-quality academics. And Goal 5, preparing every student for their future. On this slide, you are supposed to see the 4 pillars describing the capabilities we will describe to achieve these goals. And there they are. And they're in really small type. So we'll go left to right, orange, or excuse me, red to purple. They are culturally responsive to student-centered teaching and learning, collaboration with families and community, professional learning, growth and wellness, and comprehensive systems of excellence. Finally, the Budget Committee further directed the administration to include the following priorities, which Director Southerton will speak to momentarily. They are maintain co-curricular opportunities, student voice leadership and activities, students. Somehow the sentence doesn't make sense, but nevertheless, you can see co-curricular opportunities, music, arts, athletics, and clubs, and then maintain career and technical education programs. And with that, I'll pause here for questions before turning it over to Director Southerton to walk us through the current financial position of the district. Thanks for hanging in there.
All right. Thanks, James. All right, everybody, I'll go around the room so we can make sure everybody's voice is heard. And I'll just go around as I see everyone in the gallery. Rod Betcher, start us off.
All right. Do I have any questions? Do I not have any questions is the question. I'll take the last one I just wrote down. Will the 750,000 savings source be continued to capture long-term savings? In other words, the insourcing. Is that something we can continue on? Is it a drastic measure, or is it something we can live with and capture that much?
Yeah, it's a perpetual savings, and Director Southern will be able to speak to the cost savings exercised in the long-term plan for that. Go ahead, Director Southerton.
Yeah, great question, Rod. As superintendent, I know it's identified. It is something that we continue on, and actually the savings should increase over time because we will not experience the same cost increases that we would from the MESD. We'll have our internal cost increases of our staff, cost of living adjustments, and other benefit increases. But by outsourcing, you're typically spending more than insourcing. So those costs are, it's a sustainable change, and the savings should increase over time.
Can I ask one more question and I'll just shut up after that? It relates to what we just talked about. How long can the spend down last of the surpluses that we've had at the current rate? And can the slope of the spend down curve be lessened and a more distributed reduction in staff and projected facilities cost be captured on a more, I'm going to call it humane just because I can't think of another word, humane basis? It won't be so sudden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll speak broadly to it and then let Director Southerton fill in with details. So we're projected to have a 5% difference between what we anticipate for revenue and what our costs will be associated. We intend to address that gap, half between reductions and half between using end fund balance savings. Director Southerton, feel free to add the detail.
In regards to, is it something that we continue on? Yes, we do have a planned fund spend down, a fund spend down plan to get to the board policy amount of 5 to 15% of an ending fund balance. So we're currently in excess of that 15% goal or target. So 15% in broad numbers is a $12 million ending fund balance. We're projected to start the next budget year at $18 million. So this proposed budget includes a $2 million deficit, which will take us down to $16 million. We anticipate probably having a similar deficit for the following year. And then we're hopeful that the state, through their endeavors to improve the continued service level calculation and formula, identifying how much money schools need to maintain the current service level biennium over biennium. We're hopeful that that will be refined and improved as it is, or as it's being this current biennium. And then we're also hopeful that the state is coming along with some additional funding for the high cost disability and the students experiencing disability contribution. So those are three major components that will heavily influence what future deficits or staffing looks like, and they're all controlled at the state level. So we continue to advocate and have shared advocacy with our union partners and others for the state to adequately fund education.
The question came from Portland Public Schools. Drastic change, $40 million change, and that would be a huge cliff for a lot of teachers. I don't want that to happen to Centennial teachers. So a lower slope configuration would push that out farther, and less people at a one time would go out. That's always contention. So that's why I brought it up. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a great point. And
So
just for a point of reference for the committee and maybe those that are watching, Portland Public is roughly 10 times the size of Centennial, and they're having a $40 to $45 million budget cut. So that would be $4 to $5 million for Centennial. And as Superintendent Owens just shared, we're closer to two to $2.5 million reduction for this proposed budget. So we're in 2 times better shape than Portland Public, for example.
Thank you for
using
that.
their numbers. And I think that's a testament to the board and to this budget committee for taking a long-term, thoughtful approach to the budgeting we've done in the last few years to put ourselves in a better position to kind of weather or wait out the legislature while they improve funding for schools. So congrats.
And I would just add to that.
To you all.
Yeah, to Director Betcher's point, what I would add to that is that we went through this exercise last year. We're doing it this year. We anticipate doing so next year. We go through a process of annual adjustment, right sizing, and pruning as we go through so that we can avoid having substantial cliffs. I mean, theoretically, we could do nothing, keep all current service together, and spend completely out of fund balance, but you are creating a cliff like you're describing. I don't intend to impugn any other district's efforts, and I don't propose to understand their budgeting dynamics just because I'm not there. But what I would say is that within our efforts, we're trying to continue to prune along the way so that we don't create substantial cliffs like we're seeing elsewhere.
Thank you for your work.
All right, thank you, Rod. We'll keep it moving. Michael Newman, you're the next little picture on the computer screen.
I don't have any questions right now. I do really appreciate the work, Director Southerton, that you have put in. I know this was no easy task, so I express my appreciation.
Thank you. I have a wonderful team that helps out, so does quite a bit of work. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Andrews, Claudia, did you have any questions?
No questions from me, thanks.
Thank you. Mary Stegman, good evening to you. Did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll keep moving. Karen Wolfgang, I believe that's you. In the Climate Action Hub. Any questions? All righty. Director Morin, any questions?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Stanley, did you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you. Amber Topham, did you have any questions?
None at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Shields, did you have any questions?
Nope, I'm good to go.
All right. Let me see. Myrna Jensen, did you have any questions at this time?
I do not. I do want to thank the hard work that Centennial School District has done in these challenging times. And I think we got a lot of smart people in our district and a lot of people who know how to plan.
All right. And I think, Karen, you might have dropped off and come back. Or did you have any questions?
I did. I apologize for that. No questions at this time. Thank you all for your work.
All right. Thank you. I do not have any questions at this time either, so let's keep the show going.
Okay, I will re-share the screen again. It was nice to be able to see everybody, so stop sharing for just a moment. Is everybody able to see my screen? Fantastic. So we'll jump into it. So we'll go over the overview of the budget. So it is a 165-page document. So I find it helpful to kind of revisit the layout for everybody, since we kind of dig into it in depth each just once a year. And then we'll discuss the proposed budget and as well as revenue and expense forecasting for all the various funds and then major changes. So, and I'm going to move this over. I'm on two screens and it makes me kind of look sideways here. So let's see if I can move it to my other screen. All right. So a budget has several different funds. We have the general funds, special funds, and then sometimes we have some short-term focused intervention funds as well. And they all work in concert together like an orchestra or like a pyramid. They're built on top of each other here.
Director Southerton, the presentation is no longer displaying.
Uh-oh. Thank you. All right. Back to displaying. Wonderful. So as I was saying, the various aspects of the fund of the budget book kind of build upon each other. We have the general fund, special funds, and then short-term focused intervention funds occasionally are available as well. The general fund, as you'll recall, is in the budget book pages 4 through 58 and is the foundation of the budget. It provides all the services, basic services for the district. It's the largest fund with the majority of district funding. It's also the least restrictive and supports the majority of education and school operational work. The general fund is variable fund based almost entirely on enrollment and how our students present, otherwise known as ADM or average daily membership or ADM weighted, ADMW, and the various weights that Oregon Department of Education provides for students such as English language learners, students experiencing disabilities, and poverty as measured by the census data. The general fund is the foundational core, largely comprised of resources from local property taxes and the district's state school fund allocation. It funds the majority of positions in the district, such as teachers, educational assistants, support staff, principals, and others. It focuses on general education, special education, student wellness, co-curricular activities, training, operations, and more. It funds the core of all programs to support all students, and as we've noticed, is inadequate to meet the needs of our students. Centennial and general fund based on enrollment. Centennial, like many districts, has experienced declining enrollment over the past several years, including before, during, and after the pandemic. As the last 3 years on this chart show, we've seen a steady decline of about 100 students or 120 weights per year. 2023 to 24 was 6,984. The current year, we're at 6,897. And next year, we're forecasting 6,769. As our funding is directly related or based on enrollment and the weights upon which our students present with, this change or decline in enrollment will reduce our funding by approximately $1.4 million next year, just based on the number of students presenting. So we see that our revenue for the current budget year is estimated at just over or just under $79 million for the general fund. It is still an estimate because the Oregon Department of Education updates your funding throughout the year. They take measurements of enrollment periodically throughout the year. And if you have increasing enrollment throughout the school year or decreasing enrollment throughout the school year, they adjust your funding mid-year. Next year's forecasted revenue is $81,613,216, very precise, and that's what we have in the budget book. We are observing that local property tax revenue is coming in a little bit lower than forecasted in the current budget year. So you'll notice when you look at the budget book and you look at the revenue for the general fund and you look at local property taxes, we're not forecasting a very big increase year over year. We're not sure what that's being attributed to, either lower growth rate or collection rate. So we're researching that to see what the ongoing impact of that may be. We're also observing that the high cost disability reimbursement was only 28% this year. So to build that out a little bit, we have some students whose disability presents with needs that can range up to $200,000 to provide educational and medical needs for the most acute students. And that's called high cost disability when it exceeds $30,000 per student. The state of Oregon has a $55 million fund for high cost disability, which it uses to reimburse school districts for those expenses. Currently, the need was roughly 4 times the amount of the fund. So there was about $200 million worth of expenses across Oregon school districts and only a $55 million fund. So they reimbursed us for 28% for last school year, meaning we were out of pocket or had to take away from core programming for the difference, the 72%. There's active legislation at the state level now proposing to increase the amount of that fund. And so hopefully if action is taken, we may get some additional revenue or reimbursement for our high cost disabilities expenses next year. General fund expenses, the major changes for the next year are going to be focused on salaries and cost of living adjustments, step increases, and then PERS. As James said, we are very much in the people and student business, or people heavy and student business. And so those are our major cost drivers, about 85% of the budget. And so when we have increases year over year, that's where we're going to observe the highest amount in dollar terms of increase year over year in costs. PERS rates are assessed at the state level, and those we've been put on notice as school districts that both OPSERV and Tier 1 and Tier 2 expect about a 2% increase next year. That 2% increase is on every dollar of salary paid. So that's around $935,000 increase next year for additional funds that we'll be sending to PERS for that 2% increase. Overall, in the proposed budget, we see expenses of $83.5 million in the general fund. That is before contingency. You'll notice on the summary page that it is $85 million. We're carrying $1 million in contingency for additional funding that may come from the legislature for the high cost disability reimbursement, and also possibly lifting the cap on students identified or student weights for disability. Right now, there is a cap of 11%. We have about 16% of our student population that is on an IEP or may qualify for that, but the state caps it at 11%. That is also being considered to be raised now. There's proposal to eliminate the cap, and there's proposals to raise the cap to 15% or so. So we don't have any certainty on what will come out of the legislature, but we are carrying some contingency in case that comes through in the funding side, so that we can add those supports if it's provided by the state. Overall, as you can see, though, there is a mismatch of expenses being greater than revenue. This results in a negative financial impact next year, or also known as a deficit of $1.9 million. As Superintendent Owens identified, we're fortunate to have managed resources responsibly over recent years, which is allowing us to largely maintain all current service levels and avoid drastic cuts. However, as we know, deficits are not sustainable. We have a limited fund balance. We can't continue to spend in deficits, and as Superintendent Owens noted, if we didn't take any action, we would have had closer to a $5 million deficit. So that would grow to $7 million the following year. That would grow to $9 million the next year, and then we would be out of any fund balance. So it is appropriate that we continue to do some pruning, do some minor adjustments from year to year, as has been previously discussed. Special revenue funds are more and more significant. They've grown more significant in recent years with the fully funding of Measure 98, otherwise known as High School Success, and the Student Investment Account, otherwise known as SIA or SSA, Student Success Act. We are seeing more funding, but for specific targeted groups or activities. So you'll recall from the work session that these special funds are in sections 200 to 700. They're in page 59. That should say to 125. I will correct that. Don't worry, the budget book doesn't have 1,100 pages. You don't have to read that many of them. These funds are restricted for specific purposes and allowable uses. They often have a specified time for utilization. So they might be allocated on an annual basis. They might be allocated for the biennium. At the state level, they're typically allocated for, we get an allocation for each year, but it will roll over as long as it's within the biennium. But at the end of the biennium, any unspent funds go back to the state. So that would be the High School Success or Measure 98. And also the Student Success Act or SIA. Those are the state funded special revenue funds and grant funds. Other funds roll over. So the Classroom Improvement Fund is a Centennial specific fund, and unspent dollars in that fund will roll over for the following year. Title has limited carryover from year to year. Generally speaking, they allow a 15% carryover from year to year. Student Success Act, as noted, is a large grant by the state. It's estimated to be anywhere between $6.2 and $6.4 million next year, and for the biennium, it's estimated to be $12 to $13 million for Centennial's allocation. The Student Investment Account is in the proposed budget, is forecasted or proposed to continue funding Centennial Virtual Academy to support students who prefer a non-traditional learning environment. Learning specialists and educational assistants for the special classrooms, as Superintendent Owens noted that we are insourcing. Assistant principals to support our schools with a higher need and higher absenteeism. Social workers and mental health supports, We added additional counselor when we started the student investment account. That is not an additional one this year. That is just an additional one that was added when this was fully funded beginning 2 years ago. Updated curriculum support, enhanced co-curricular activities, which are ongoing, and student leadership activities at both middle schools, and an English language learner or ELL teacher. In high school success, or Measure 98, we're estimating that the funding will be $1.9 to $2.1 million for the next budget year in the proposed budget, and close to $4 million over the biennium. Specifically targeted at 85% of the support going to the high school level and up to 15% going to 8th grade, supporting career and technical education programs, otherwise known as CTE, and then also supporting college level educational opportunities and dropout prevention strategies. Centennial uses these funds to support CTE teaching positions and enhanced electives, and also purchasing equipment for those programs. 9th grade transition year, 8th to 9th grade transition year. Additional spaces for the Center for Advanced Learning, or CAL. We have 97 spaces included in this budget. Dropout prevention activities, and then 8th grade supports is noted up to 15% of the funding. So we have a arts position funded in there, and a vice principal at the middle level funded from this grant. Another major fund is the Classroom Improvement Fund, directed by the board and approved by the board in recent years. The fund is dedicated to improving the learning spaces for teachers and students, classrooms, and other learning spaces, so to include libraries and band rooms and music rooms as well. Remodeling classrooms to better support learning, so updated technology, updated finishes, updated electrical, and things for classrooms. Also replacing furniture and equipment that has exceeded its useful life. Park Lane is the project that is included in the proposed budget for 25-26. And we're proposing to do 4 classrooms and the music room at Park Lane Elementary School. I'll also include, as noted previously, in addition, I'll also include new windows, casework, which is the cubbies, the counters, flooring, ceiling, and student desks and chairs. These are some renderings from the Patrick Lynch, which inspired the classroom standard that we'll be utilizing also at Park Lane for this summer. Title funds provide up to an estimated $7 million for Centennial on an annual basis. While final allocations have not been given to us or provided to the district for 25-26, we anticipate some minor reductions based on our student enrollment numbers, but we don't anticipate major changes to title or federal funding at the title for the title programs. We are therefore proposing that the majority of the activities and the positions will continue for the 25-26 budget year. Title funds reading specialists, professional development for teachers, language instruction for English language learners, and it also supports some of our SUN programming in the district through our Title IV program. We do have a couple short-term specific projects or focused intervention funds or grants in the proposed budget. I'll welcome if Director Wright wants to come off mute and talk about these 2 awards that we received. In total, it's about $1.3 million over the next 4 years. And that's for the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Student Success Grant and the Latino AX and Indigenous Student Plan Grant.
Great. I'm happy to
Wright?
talk about them. Your slides are not showing anymore, so I don't know if you pulled off the slides on purpose, because I gave some talking points there also.
Oh, they weren't showing?
They were showing on my end. I'm not sure.
Right.
Okay. I'm reviewing it, and yeah, it looks like they were showing on.
Great. There we go. Okay. So hopefully all of the members of the budget committee, along with all of our board members, are aware of the really exciting opportunity that Centennial students and families and community and staff have been awarded through these 2 grants. These were highly competitive grants. The funds come through and are connected with the specific student success grant plans. And so there are in total 5 plans. We applied for all of them. We received these 2, and then we also received the immigrant and refugee student success plan, and those funds just go through the end of this year, so we didn't highlight those pieces. But over the course of the next few years, we really are hoping to do a couple things. One, we want to bring to life the idea of a family resource center, which came out of some of our facilities planning conversations that we've had over the last couple of years, as well as through the strategic planning process originally. And with that is an opportunity, and we've hired 1 of our student and community engagement specialists. We are hoping to hire 2 more, and they will really be individuals in our district that are working with buildings and with students and with families to help to demystify our school systems, to make sure that families are able to fully participate and engage in opportunities for their students, such as Connect to Kindergarten, those moving on up opportunities from 5th grade to 6th grade, as well as really critical information sessions, times, and planning around our high school student experiences. This is a chance for us collectively across the district to build more of our cultural understanding about different groups of students and how to support them instructionally, and really to draw from community and student and family strengths and bring those into our school and classrooms as well. So we're very excited. We met last week. All of the grantees from across the state were in Bend to celebrate these opportunities, to connect around what's happening, and really to focus intently on groups of students that we really want to see much more success for in all of our settings.
Wonderful. Thank you, Director Wright. All right, that was a lot of information. And before we jump into the very specific changes from year over year, I want to pause and offer a moment for questions.
Great. Thanks, Paul. If anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand. And then after the presentation, we'll go around again for another round of questions in case any come up. All right. Oh, we do have a couple questions. Director Andrews, go ahead.
The extra slots for Cal, do we need those? Is that why you've added them? Is there sort of like a waiting list for kids to get into the Cal program?
That's a great question. So these are extra slots that we've traditionally funded just out of the Measure 98 budget. So it won't be a year over year increase, but you'll observe in the proposed budget, there's funding for Cal in the general fund, and then there's funding for Cal in Measure 98 as well. And combined, they add up to approximately 97 slots total. I see we have Principal Miller here on the panel, and he may want to provide some more details on interest in Cal and the waiting list process. I know we've evaluated kind of trimester 3. Traditionally, we've seen a little bit of a drop off, so we're looking at some changes this year to ensure that those spots are filled, but I'll turn it over to Principal Miller.
Thank you, Director Southerton. Yes, what we do with the Cal slots in particular is that we try to invite or about 113%, so about 110 students are invited over the summer. We see that usually drop off to the 97 slots, and then by trimester 3, we usually see, just because of normal attrition through the year, slightly less. And so this is the same number of slots that we've had traditionally going back in my 3-year tenure here. All right, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you, Claudia. I will hand it off to Myrna Jensen. You have a question?
Yeah, so I'm curious how often, some of those special funds that you talked about said that some of them we can't roll over. They just go away. So how often are we typically using them to their maximum? I know sometimes it can be hard because of staffing and, all kinds of those things, but I'm kind of curious as to where we land on some of those different funds in using them to their maximum, abilities.
Yeah, excellent question. We have not to date, in the 5 years that I've been with the district, had to return any funds. Our teams have done an excellent job at identifying supports, positions, equipment, technology, other things that our students that can advance our student or support our student learning. And so we fully utilize those grant funds. Now, some of the folks may be aware that the Oregon Department of Education and actually at the state level, they made a pretty dramatic change this biennium in that they don't allow unspent funds. Traditionally, they had let unspent grant funds at the state level, so high school success and student investment account (SIA), roll over up until September 30th of each year, and the legislature determined that that was not permissible because there isn't funding for the next biennium, and funding ends on June 30th at the end of the second year of the biennium. And so that was a change. So now we have to spend these by June 30th versus September 30th. So that was a change, and it's been a little bit of a challenge this year. You can imagine if you have a 15-month plan, now it's getting shortened down to 12-month plan. And we had planned a lot of summer activities and whatnot during that time, and now we're unable to use those funds for those activities. There's some adjustment this year, but I think we'll navigate it successfully, and I don't anticipate giving back any funds this year either, or having any funds going unspent. I don't know if Director Callahan or who works with SIA and Title in particular under her scope wants to add anything there.
Thank you, Director Sutherland. I would say that collectively between our department as we manage these funds with business services, we do a really good job collaborating to ensure that the funds get spent.
Great question, though. We know, yes, schools are chronically underfunded in the state, so we absolutely don't want to give back any money that we don't have to. We want to make sure that money goes out to our kiddos, and to our students. And so. Wonderful. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any more hands raised, so let's move on.
Wonderful. So thank you, Chair Harden. I will now jump into the financial and non-financial changes in the proposed budget 24-25 to 25-26. I would call me down as well the page numbers where you can find these changes. Those of you that are familiar with the budget book, it doesn't necessarily read intuitive. It's not intuitive. It's often could be said it's kind of in accounting speak or government speak, and sometimes can be hard to find things. So just offering up the exact page numbers where you can see some of these changes, and then I'll pass it to Superintendent Owens as well after I summarize the changes in the book. Superintendent Owens will break it down even further to those more discrete activities that are happening. So again, highlighted previously, contractual salary step increases, cost of living increases, and benefit increases. Those are going to be our primary cost drivers and therefore our largest increases, and they're throughout the budget book. So they impact nearly every single activity and every single fund. So those are going to be throughout. Retaining smaller class sizes, pre-K to third grade. That's going to be in the 1111 function of the general fund, or the elementary instruction fund on page 6. Substitute cost increases, we are seeing increases in substitute costs, and those can be observed on pages 7 and 9. Special education assistant ratios increasing, so trying to provide the supports that our students need, can be found on page 16. Insourcing some alternative placements, so that will be observed as a reduction to Rosemary Anderson High School and Open School on page 19. We have some supply budget reductions to our IT department on page 53. Reductions to contracted services by insourcing some of our transportation activities. So while having the acute driver shortage, we had to outsource some of our special education transportation activities to licensed providers. We are now in the process of insourcing that. So staffing levels in our transportation department, while not at 100%, have largely stabilized and improved. And so we've brought back currently 4 routes in our transportation department and anticipate bringing back 5 more routes for special education. And so you'll observe on pages 47 and 48 a reduction in the fees to services or paid contractors fees. Would be a 300 level object code on page 47 and 48. We have the reduction of a debt payment. So you may recall, for those of you with the district, at the beginning of the pandemic, the board authorized the purchase of over $1 million in Chromebooks in March 2020 as we were going into COVID. That was a 5-year payment, a 5-year loan. Those payments are now falling off. And so you see a reduction of nearly $100,000 of a debt payment. And now with the technology fund being funded, we're not incurring debt as we're replacing technology now. So there's not a new loan replacing that. Contingency for additional expenses if funding is increased at the state level. As I previously discussed, there's several bills and initiatives at the state level to improve funding, both for the state school fund and then number of or percentage of students on IAPs that the district would receive additional weighting for or funding for, and then also the high cost disability additional funding. So we're proposing a larger contingency than normal because we're hopeful that that funding would come through and then we would be able to spend that money on supporting students. Right sizing staffing ratios to current enrollment. So as Superintendent Owens had previously discussed, we do right sizing every single year. So we are seeing, or we're forecasting lower enrollment at the high school level next year and lower enrollment at the elementary level. So that impacts various positions throughout the budget. And then you'll observe a major change in the decrease in ending fund balance. So we are proposing to deficit spend significantly in this budget. So you will observe the ending fund balance going from 18 million to 15 million, or under $15 million when you consider contingency. So that's in this proposed budget as well. Now that does include the contingency. So if the contingency doesn't get spent, then it would be a $2 million deficit as previously stated in this presentation. Those are all general fund. In the special funds, special revenue funds, and other funds, capital funds, etc., aspects of the budget. IDEA, or Individuals with Disabilities grant, moving some staff from the general fund to this grant. You'll observe on page 68. Insourcing of the special education classroom is staffing addition. So we're not cutting positions, we're adding positions by insourcing these activities. You'll observe those on page 73 of the student, and that will be the student investment account. Sunsetting of pandemic relief funds. So you'll observe pages 75 through 77 do not have any funding or any allocation, any planned expenses on those pages because ESSER has now expired and we did utilize all those dollars. So there's no more funding for that grant. We are proposing to have additional preschool for all classrooms funded by Multnomah County. This would be the continuation of 2 preschool classrooms at Powell Butte and the addition of 2 preschool classrooms at Meadows and Patrick Lynch, and I believe 1 classroom at the high school. So you'll see some additional staffing, new staffing there for those positions. That's going to be on page 78 and 79 of the budget. The classroom curriculum fund is a new fund that was approved by the board. That's on page 84. That's simply moving expenses from the general fund to this new fund, similar to the classroom improvement fund, how we moved maintenance and repair and replacement costs out of the general fund and created the classroom improvement fund last year. This year we took textbooks out of the functions 1111, 1121, and 1131, which are the elementary school, middle school, and high school. So when you look at those pages, you'll see reductions of a commensurate amount, several $100,000 reduction in textbooks from the general fund, and you'll see the new creation of the curriculum fund on page 84. We've got completion of the 2020 capital bond fund in 104 and 105. That has a little bit of residual funds from seismic and from the Awesome Grant reimbursement and from interest that's getting paid out to residual payments to contractors and buttoning up of some small projects. So very little activity in that fund. We have a $2.5 million seismic improvement grant for Oliver, which you'll observe on page 106 of the budget. So this is our third seismic grant that we received over the last several years. You'll recall we received the Pleasant Valley Elementary School grant for seismic improvement, the Powell Butte seismic improvement grant for the project at Powell Butte that was completed last summer, and this summer we'll be doing Oliver Middle School. And then last but not least, on this slide, we have the Classroom Improvement Fund, page 108, which will be focused on Park Lane as previously discussed. Some minor or non-financial changes that you'll observe in the budget year over year. So adjustment to school staffing reflective enrollment. This is just shifting of positions. The financial was covered on the previous slide. Some expenses and positions are moving to grant funding, so it will look as a reduction from the general fund, but really summer remediation on page 17, those funds are now going to be paid for by the recent approval in the legislature of sustainable summer school funding, which you'll observe is the miscellaneous grants in the grants portion of the budget book. So you will see a reduction on page 17, and that's going to be paid for out of the miscellaneous summer grants. Positive behavior support on page 28. You also observe in functions 2320 and 2640 splitting of the assistant superintendent FTE. So it remains a 1.0 FTE, but they have responsibilities both as superintendent and as over HR. And so it recognizes that now in the budget book. It's proposed to recognize it in the budget book as well. So moving half of that FTE, retaining half of it in the human resources function of 2640, but then putting the other half, the assistant superintendent portion, in the executive operations section, which is the 2320 portion of the budget book. We have one FTE correction. We had a maintenance employee in the care and upkeep of buildings, or custodial. It is a shared managed department. Facilities overall manages both of these, but you'll observe a reduction, a 1.0 reduction in 2542, and you'll see a 1.0 increase in 2544. That's just classifying the employee in the correct function. So pages 42 and 43. We also had a change in workflow for our IT department. We're doing less printing and we're doing more technical and desktop support and learning program support. So there is a reduction from our printing function on page 53 and an increase in our IT department on page 49. So not a financial change, but just a change in the work that's happening. And then there's minor salary changes due to staffing throughout. So our budget is not an estimate, or it's not a plug factor for each FTE. It is the actual dollar that the wage that the employee who is in that position is forecasted to make next year. So it's exact to the person, the step they're on, the salary scale that they're on. And sometimes you have employees that are retiring that may be on a high step, and you have an employee that's coming in that may have be on step 3 or 4 because they have less experience. And so I can think of one example, our dean of students. We had our outgoing dean of students that was at the top of the range at over $100,000 a year, and then our current dean of students is at a lower amount because they're at a lower range and they're newer. That's not a reduction. They're both, it's still 1.0. But you may look at the dollar amount and say, wow, why is it $20,000 less next year than it was this year? It's because it is about the person in the job and that the specific wage that person is making. It's not like I said, it's not the average of all licensed teaching positions or, the average of all principals, for example. It's the specific step that they're on. That's also why you'll observe differences from school to school. You have some schools that have maybe a less experienced staff, and you have some schools that maybe have a more experienced staff at the top of the range. So they may have the same or very similar number of teachers, and you may have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 difference for salaries at each school, even though they have the same amount of FTE and the same ratios and the same class sizes. So that's kind of why it's hard to compare, schools just on a purely dollar term. We use the same metrics for class sizes and student to teacher ratios for all schools on each grade level. So our class size targets for kinder are the same at every school. Our class size, our student to teacher ratios are the same for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, whether it's at Centennial Middle School or Oliver Middle School. We have the same ratio, or try to have the same ratio of student to teacher. So salaries may vary from school to school, but the staffing ratios are consistent largely. And with that, I will turn it over to Superintendent Owens to further discuss some of the specific reductions that we were needing to make in this budget to limit our deficit spending and to make up for the inadequate funding at the state level.
Great. Thank you, Director Southerton. And as we were preparing this presentation, I asked to take a few slides in this portion. Usually I set the frame at the outset and then Director Southerton takes it away. But in this case, I wanted to be a little bit more explicit in terms of what the budget reductions are planned for the upcoming school year. The reason being is we want to be as transparent as possible. We don't want any surprises for our budget committee members in case somebody asks in the community, did you know that such and such was being reduced? And also we don't want any accusation that we're hiding the ball. So we have what you see on the screen, 5 different categories that you could roughly categorize the budget reductions for the upcoming year. I'll outline each of those briefly, and then each slide subsequent to this will take one of those bullets and expand on it in more detail. So operational efficiencies and service realignment, staffing adjustments aligned to enrollment, expense reductions and cost containment, programmatic changes and staffing consolidations, and then strategic fund realignment. So we'll get into each one in more detail. If you have questions as we go along, feel free to ask. And also Director Southerton is welcome to expand on anything that I say. So for operational efficiencies and service realignment, you'll see minor reductions to ancillary services in IT, transportation, and district-wide departments. Director Southerton may want to expand on this before we move slides. Technology debt service payments are concluding. Transportation cost reduction. So we have a 75% reduction in contracted special education transportation services through insourcing that responsibility. Reduced home to school transportation reimbursements through insourcing, and a 50% reduction in transportation maintenance costs because we have a newer bus fleet that requires less maintenance. We also have found some efficiencies in some of our custodial work and intend to reduce custodial staffing by 6 hours per day. Director Southerton, feel free to clean it up.
I think you're spot on. The ancillary services reductions, that is a lot of the insourcing and the maintenance reductions as noted in your sub bullet points there under the transportation cost. And then as previously discussed with the IT department, we're doing less printing and we're doing more software and learning instructional program supports. And so just transitioning from a 1.0 printing to a 0.6 software support results in some savings. And then the debt payment was the Chromebooks as previously discussed.
Go ahead, Director Southerton. The next one you'll see is staffing adjustments aligned to enrollment. As has been discussed a couple of times during this presentation, we go through an annual exercise of right sizing our FTE allocation to level depending on enrollment. In this case, you'll see the breakdown of FTE reduction in certain settings. Director Southerton will likely say after my comments here that the class size ratios are not forecasted to be different than they are this year. And so it accounts for enrollment increases or decreases. So you'll see at the elementary level a 2.0 across the elementary schools reduction, middle school, no reduction, high school 2.0, but that's a little bit trickier when you get into the numbers. And Director Southerton can talk about that, but perhaps. And then Centennial Virtual Academy, a 1.0 reduction in the K-8 realm. Paul, what do you got?
It's the unfortunate just balancing that we're doing with the declining enrollment, as Superintendent Owens touched on. We forecast no increase in class sizes, and we'll see in a couple slides the very specific class size levels that we are forecasting, and the student teacher ratios that we're forecasting at the secondary level remain the same as current year, and in some cases are down by one, I believe, at the elementary grade bands.
Obviously, students don't go in neat packages of 25, so as individual students' experience in their classroom may be different depending on where they go to school and how many students are in that cohort.
And we welcome additional students. You know, if we do see additional students arrive next year, we understand that we do have a little bit of contingency funded in our regular contingency, then not the separate section for the additional funding, but we know if we do have more students next year and we have spots with higher class sizes, we'll be prepared to support that and add supports as needed.
Great. Next slide. So this is our third of the 5 sections: expense reductions and cost containment, minor reductions to supply budgets based on student counts, reducing district paid catering for meetings, reducing the superintendent's office supply budget, reducing excessive printing and copying, transition to Chromebook, classroom-based Chromebooks, replacing the one-to-one model. My understanding is that by making that transition, not only is it programmatically more beneficial, but also it reduces breakage through students having those at home. And then finally, in this category, the reduction of hired services and paid partnerships, and those would be insourcing strategic planning implementation with Performance Fact, insourcing SEL training, which we've done through Responsive Classroom, discontinuing reprogramming at Centennial Middle School, and then discontinuing overnight security patrols. Anything to add, Director Southerton?
Nope, you covered it.
Okay. Second to last, we have programmatic changes and staffing consolidations, so adjustments to programs or roles. We have a re-envisioning of the freshman transition, discontinuation of the freshman teaming model at Centennial High School, and instead adding an 8th to 9th grade transition coach, embedding the college and career counseling activities within the CHS counseling program. That's a reduction of 1.0 FTE, which is the college and career counselor position. In a time of efficiencies, that's tasks that have traditionally been within the realm of counselors, and that's where that FTE reduction and that work will absorb. A reduction of the instructional coaching program by 2 FTE, and you can see the breakdown between general fund and the student investment account. A reduction of 1.0 secretary position at CVA by absorbing in the leveled host schools, whether it be high school, middle, or elementary. Reducing half-time FTE district office curriculum and student learning support position. And also, as has been discussed a couple times tonight, insourcing the MESD functional life skills classrooms at the elementary, high school, and transition level. You might ask why the middle school isn't represented, and that's because there's projected to not be any students at that level for those classroom or for that classroom. Anything, Director Southerton?
No, I think you hit it spot on. I think it is titled as reduction for insourcing the MESD functional life skills, and it's a reduction of expense. It's an addition of staff. So you'll observe 2 additional licensed positions and 14 additional educational assistant positions in the student investment account. So we will be adding 16 positions to insource that activity to our district. But it will be overall an expense reduction. Partially made possible by the investment from the board reserve account to purchase the new Centennial Transition Center building that you'll recall we purchased last year, and we're remodeling this year to support the program. So the way that building is specifically designed to support the program will allow us to support these students in the district as well. So a good investment again to purchase that building.
And the last slide, if you don't mind. The final one is strategic fund realignments, the movement of specific positions to allowable funding sources. So you'll see 5 positions that we were able to move from one fund to another. Credit recovery program to the summer school grant, which is projected to be signed by the governor here soon. Early learning administrator to the Multnomah County Preschool for All grant. Curriculum and student and learning administrator to Title 1A and Title 2A. A social work position to one of the student success grants that was previously described by Director Wright. And finally, the district-wide MTSS position to Measure 98 to the previously described high school success focused on the 8th to 9th grade transition, replacing the freshman teaming. And that's the final slide in this batch. Director Southerton, anything to add on this one?
Just as you're going through the budget book, and again, I sent that to the committee electronically, and Regina and I will send out physical copies of the budget book as you're kind of flipping through. If you come across the general fund reduction of these areas, this is to help understand that they are still with the district and they were moved to grants. But I welcome any questions you may have if you see a specific reduction that you don't feel that we discussed at this presentation. Please feel free to reach out. All right, and I will take it back. Do we want to pause for any questions on those slides?
I think we should, yes. Okay. And feel free to raise your hands, folks. Amber Topham, go ahead.
Hi, I'd like a little bit more clarification on the 2.0 full-time employee at the elementary loss. Is that more of like we lose 2 per elementary student or elementary school, or overall two of those? Can you define that a little bit better?
Yeah, I'll start with that, and then Director Southerton can add in. So that's across all of our elementary schools and all of our elementary grades is 2.0 FTE reduction. And that is in large part due to a larger 5th grade class that is going to the middle school level, replaced by a projected incoming kindergarten class that is smaller and overall smaller primary classes than intermediate classes. Director Southerton, would you concur? And what do you have to add?
Exactly. It is 2 FTE across all 6 elementary schools, so not at each. So it's going from 105 in the current year to 103 in the proposed budget for elementary classroom instruction. And we're forecasting class sizes to not increase. Unfortunately, it just is fewer students at the primary grades. And so it results in not needing as many teachers to maintain the same class sizes that we have now.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, a little bit more explanation of that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Amber. Michael Newman?
Yeah, thanks. My question is kind of one of the earlier slides in this section. You mentioned on page 73 in the budget, which was, and that there was insourcing of special ed. And I looked there, and it looks like 12 and a half FTE added in classified staff. Was that, because you mentioned the word insourcing, so was that taking some outsourced positions and bringing them in, or is this resulting in like a net add of classified staff at the special ed level?
Yeah, excellent question. So on page 73, you'll under the 100 level, as you noted, we go from 0.2 classified FTE to 12.56 classified FTE. So in FTE terms, that's over 12 full-time equivalents. So just to refresh folks, if I don't. FTE is full-time equivalent. So for every FTE, that's 8 hours of work, considering a full day or 40 hours in a normal work week. Our educational assistants will generally work between 6 and 7 hours. So we have a total of 14 additional positions that we're adding, which will equate to just over 12 equivalent FTE. So that is the insourcing. You'll see a reduction lower on that same page in the 300 level purchase services. 373 is private school tuition outplacements. You'll notice that in the proposed column, which is the column on the right, there is no funding in the proposed budget for those outplacements. But if you look to the left where it says current budget dollars, you'll observe $858,000. So we are, by insourcing, we're not paying that $858,000. And that's just on what was insourced or private school tuition for the student investment account. So we save all that funding and only just pay the delta for the additional for the staffing. And we're saving outplacement costs in the general fund as well. So if we go, that's where the total of the 12 or the 750,000 total savings comes. It's partial savings in that fund and it's partial savings in the general fund combined by providing these services directly.
Great, thank you. Thanks. That's what I was really looking forward to, is that alignment of what it's replacing. That looks like a wonderful savings. Thanks.
Yeah, it's great for our students as well, because we're providing the services in district, right, in their community, rather than having to ask others to provide those services. So I think it's definitely a win-win, and adding staff in the district, which adding more of our own employees. So overall, we see it as a great benefit to our students and a financial savings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Mooring, did you have a question?
No, I accidentally hit the button.
Okay. All right. Paul, continue on, my friend.
Wonderful. Thanks for bearing with us. It's a very important topic. Obviously, this is, how we propose to support our students next year. So thanks everyone for hanging in there for this long presentation. I'm going to try to bring it home here. So overall, we do feel this is very much a student-focused budget, and we measure that based on our goals of the strategic plans and on the goals provided to us by this committee. So goal 1 of providing strong foundation for pre-K through 3rd grade. We're forecasting class sizes of 15 to 18 for preschool, 23 forecasted for kinder, 1st grade 23, 2nd grade 23, and 3rd grade 26. These are on averages. Some will be lower, some will be higher, but these are on average. Goal 2, continuing the district supports, including social workers and insourcing the FLS classrooms, behavior specialist, improving educational assistant ratios, continuing to have assistant principals and professional development to support our educators, centering student voice and activities, empowerment and opportunities for leadership. So continuing clubs, continuing advisory, continuing student groups, continuing co-curricular activities at middle school and at all levels that we have done this year. We're proposing to continue them for next year. Goal 4, supporting goal 4 through stable class sizes. So we, again, are forecasting no increase in class size. And we're supporting high quality academics by continuing our curriculum adoptions and having quality curriculum materials and updating those adoptions on a regular adoption cycle for our students. And then preparing every student for their future, continuing to maintain the professional development for educators, continuing to have high high quality academic programming, continuing CTE, and Centennial Virtual Academy for non-traditional learners. We further believe that the proposed budget will support the committee priorities by continuing and fully funding all the co-curricular activities that have been added in recent years. So no reductions to co-curricular activities, clubs, advisory opportunities, all maintained through the SIA funding for next year, and no reductions to our CTE programs, our CAL or Center for Advanced Learning programs, or our partnerships with Mount Hood Community College, where our students, some of our high school students can earn college credit. That's all continued in this budget. So continuing to support both the priorities of the strategic plan and the priorities of the budget committee. Overall, our elementary school average class size is forecasted to be 25. That's across all grade levels at the elementary. So K through 5, an average of 25 students in each class. Individually, some classes will be higher, some classes will be lower, but the average to be 25. Middle school, we forecast based on ratio of licensed teachers to students, because class sizes vary at the middle and at the high school level. You may have a band class, a music class that's very large, because you need to have a lot of students to have a good band class, or a PE class, or something like that. You may have a very small elective class, or a third-year language class, or something like that. And so overall, we use the metrics and the ratios, and so it's 1 to 23 and 1 to 25, so consistent with this year as well. Historically low class sizes overall for the district. We have done some backward testing and looking at our class sizes this year, every year, but more intentionally this year, and we see a trend from 2014 to now, decreasing elementary class sizing and increasing and improving student to teacher ratios at the secondary level. There, unfortunately, in 2014, 2015, it was not uncommon to have elementary class sizes in the 30. We had one, the highest class size was 37 in an elementary classroom. It was a 4th grade class in 2014. Our highest forecasted class size for next year at any elementary class across the district is 30. That's our highest forecasted class size, and the average is 25. So we continue to have historically low class sizes despite the inadequate funding at the state level with this proposed budget. It maintains all our current critical services to students, continues leveraging grants and special funds, as Superintendent Owens spoke about, utilizing some of those funds in a more creative way, and moving some positions that were funded in the grant funds or in the general fund to the grant fund. It continues our special education supports. Even though the state is not funding them adequately, we continue to provide the services that students deserve and need. It continues the smaller class sizes and investments to close learning gaps for our students. As previously stated, continues investments in the co-curricular and student leadership opportunities, and continues investments in improving our spaces. The Classroom Improvement Fund is forecasted to continue in the proposed budget next year. So where we know our students and our staff spend the most time in the classroom learning, we want to make sure those supports are supporting the learning that's happening there. The proposed budget does require a $1.9 million spending deficit. So spending above what local taxes in the state are providing. So I want to be explicit in calling that out. We are spending down our savings, but that is on plan, and it is intentional. And I think in a very thoughtful way that's supporting students. Lastly, just want to express my appreciation to the entire business office, but especially Betty LeGros, who's our Centennial budget analyst, and Calvin, who is our Centennial accountant, but also the entire business office team. So, I'm kind of here sharing this with you all today, but we have a great team in the business office that has put a lot of work into preparing this budget and supporting students. And so just appreciation for all of them, and Regina on the call tonight here supporting this presentation as well. So for questions, we do welcome questions and feedback. we'll discuss that, I'm sure, with Chair Harden in a minute, but we also have the budget at Centennial email address that the public can send questions to, or the committee can send questions to as well. Lastly, a calendar reminder, or before we get into questions, calendar reminder. So we're going through the presentation of the proposed budget this evening. As is our practice, we offer up the next week for feedback from the budget committee. If we could have that by May 1st, that would be helpful, because we want to return to you at the second meeting in May with a completed budget for your potential consideration and approval. And so that will take time to do all the calculations and update all the pages and make any changes or that need to be made. So if you could provide that feedback to us in the next week, that would be appreciated. Chair Harden, shall we continue our previous practice of with emails from the committee, the answers being shared with the full committee as well, as has been our previous practice?
Yes, absolutely. I think
Wonderful.
we should continue with that practice.
Great. And then we have our second budget committee on committee meeting on May 28th, where this committee will receive the proposed approved budget for your consideration and approval at that meeting. The committee will also receive public comment at that meeting. And then the committee would also, in addition to approving the budget, they would approve the permanent tax levy amount for property taxes, and then also the bond tax amount, and forward that on to the school board for final consideration and potential adoption in June. With that, I also just offer up, I'll share this presentation with the committee, and there are links, additional helpful links to Oregon budget law, the various codes in the budget book, and how they break down further than just the description in the budget book, and other resources for those of you that are interested. And with that, I just want to thank everyone and open it up for final questions and feedback.
All right. Thank you, Paul. First order of business, everyone, seeing the time, we need a motion to approve extending the meeting. So if I could get a motion to extend the meeting, I'm thinking 7:50 would give us 15 more minutes.
So moved.
Second. Yay.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. I want to be sure we all have a chance to have our voices be heard. Appreciate you all taking the time. All right, so we'll go round table. Rod Betcher, start us off.
Okay, just comment. You said you were researching the decreasing collected property tax. I would love to see you be a little more forceful in your comments to the Taxing Commission and the Multnomah County and a little bit of Clackamas County to get those funds. That was one of the last things you said in the presentation, that we had problems with the lowered amount of property tax collected. Second, I didn't hear very much at all about CTE enrollment or funds that go to bring in either equipment or proselytize students to come in and use them. And I'm not sure how that works in figuring CTE, but I don't want to assume that because we didn't talk about it, it's not being done. So I want to put that out there. And that's all I have.
Excellent. Well, CTE, you're primarily going to find that in our grants section of the budget book, so the 200 level funds under the Measure 98 or a high school success grant. So you'll observe there's a little over 6 FTE for instruction, and then there are also supplies and non-consumable equipment budgeted in that grant, and those are the dollar amounts. I don't know if Principal Miller would like to build that out into the specific CTE programs that are available at the high school.
And Director Callahan maybe wants to weigh in as well.
Perfect.
Yes, our overall CTE programs projected for next year are continuing under this budget, sort of the same programs. In fact, especially with the switch to preschool for all, we're actually able to expand some of our preschool offerings and then to that education. So that this budget helps us do that. And then Director Callahan, is there anything you would like to add to that?
I would just add that in the measure 98, it's covering staff, and then also we have to keep in mind Perkins in terms of materials, equipment and such. So I think between those two grants, Dr. Ramberg does a very nice job kind of managing that. We can get more details on that breakdown.
I just think there's an untapped desire to have more CTE programs, and I don't want it to be to go by the wayside because it's not spoken about too much by the diaspora of parents. So I'm just concerned that we don't collect that information well enough to know how much we're not meeting the needs of kids who don't want to or can't or just don't see any need for a high school diploma, and they can move into a trade.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an excellent point. And we know that students who are involved in CTE do very well academically and with graduation. And so I think it's a point well taken. And I know in talking to Dr. Ramberg, he's very interested in, how do we continue to shine a light on the great work that's happening with CTE.
Thanks for that information.
All right. Thank you, Rod. Michael Newman, you're the next photo I see.
I have no further questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Amber Topham.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
All right. Director Mooring.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Shields.
No particular questions, but I do appreciate the page numbering and bringing our attention and focus down to some of the specific areas that we need to be thinking more about in preparation for our feedback to you. And I would also appreciate you've given us the timeline, but it's really nice to receive email prompts to say, hey, get that into us, please. Sometimes we need a little bit of extra push to get our work done.
Absolutely. Chair Harden and I will be reaching out several times over the next week. So thank you, though, for that prompt.
Absolutely. Myrna Jensen. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you, though, for all the work.
Thank you. Karen Wolfgang, any questions?
None at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Andrews, any questions?
I do have just a clarifying question, and I think Director Southerton, I kind of wasn't paying quite as close attention as you were talking about the CTC building. What did you say about that and what we needed to understand? Because you said that it was a bonus that we were working on. Anyway, could you just repeat what you'd said about the CTC building?
Yes, absolutely. So as part of the insourcing of the functional life skills or FLS classrooms that the Multnomah County Educational Service District was providing for us and now will be insourcing next year, 7 of those students that will be returning will be attending the Centennial Transition Center, which will be the new building for next school year. And so it's a wonderful investment that the board made through the board reserve account to purchase that building and then build it out, design it, move the walls, create the learning spaces that can support these activities. The current CTC building that we're renting has generally 2 classroom spaces, and the new building will have 3 learning spaces. So it's helping to facilitate bringing these students back to Centennial buildings and Centennial schools, and it's helping to facilitate the savings. The fact that we purchased the building as a district with the board support and the board reserve fund, purchased that building, that's helped contributing to our ability to directly serve our own students in our own buildings. So that's what I was commenting on. Does that answer the question, Director Andrews?
Yeah, it does. I guess I didn't understand that we outsourced some of the education for the 18 to 20-year-old cohort. And so that's news to me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Director Wright, anything I need to clean up there on the 7 students that will be returning or the numbers?
Right, we actually have 9 students that will
9 students.
be
Yeah.
so and Director Andrews, to your point, students who have participated in the MESD classrooms at the elementary, the middle, the high school level, given the complexity of needs, mobility, access, and or the facilities itself in the current building, we've been unable to meet some students' needs. And so the MESD offers transition services at their Ainsworth building, which is really close to the airport. So current Centennial students are riding buses all the way up there every day for their services. And now our students will be just right down the street at our new site. And so those considerations. So we will have a full house next year at CTC with having 3 classrooms. We're adjusting some FTE elsewhere so that we can have a 3rd teacher on site because of the complexity of need of the new students who will be joining us.
All right. Thanks, Denise. Director Stanley, did you have any questions?
The only question I have is quite silly. Is there a paper version of this anywhere that I can look at so I do not have to read it on a screen for hours at a time?
That's not a silly question. I'm a big paper person. I love it. This is coming to you shortly. I don't know how clear it's showing up on the screen, but that is our budget book. This is the proposed budget. So thank you, business office team. I can show it to you all. It is going out in the mail to you tomorrow. And then there are physical copies in the district office for members of the public who may want to come in and grab a copy. We'll also have it electronically on our website. So yes, paper version is coming to committee members. It'll be mailed to your address we have on file. If any committee members have moved in the last year, please send me an email, and we'll want to make sure we get it to your current address.
Thank you. Director Lynn, did you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. I do not have any questions. So I think we made it, everybody. Okay, so here's the timeline. You all received the budget via email on Monday. If you did not, say something. Paper copies are getting mailed to our house. So this is the time that we can review it. You can ask all the questions you want. You can give it to your friends, counting friends. You can give it, it's a public document. Everybody can have it. Feel free to spread, share. This is the time for questions to be asked and clarifications to be made. And we need those questions to the budget email group, budget@csd28ja.org. I think I got it right.
Perfect.
Send your questions there. The budget department will look it all over and they'll reply all to us. And Paul, you need to have it by end of day on April 30th. Is that correct?
Please, yes. That would be great.
April 30th. So that is 1 week from today. 11:59 p.m. Ask all your questions. You do not need to wait till 11:59 p.m. to ask the questions. I tend to review them over the weekend and just kind of bookmark it myself. And feel free to ask all those questions and get it into the nice people. And then once after that happens, the next step will be they will review the information, make any tweaks or adjustments needed based on our questions and feedback. And then we will meet on May 28th virtually, just like we did tonight. And that's where we will, if all goes well, fingers crossed, we will approve the budget proposal and we will ask for public comment. So if you have people that want to have comment, members of the public that want to comment, they're welcome to at that meeting on May 28th. And like I said, it will also be virtual. And then if all works well and everybody's satisfied, we will approve the budget, and then it'll go to the board from there. So does anybody have any questions about any of the timeline or responsibilities or any of those things? Okay. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. That's why I'm here. I'm happy to help. And if there's any challenges or anything you need, by all means, reach out to me or reach out to Paul or the budget group as a whole. If there's nothing else, we'll move to 3.0, future agenda items, which is exactly what I just went over. Our next meeting is May 28th. Typically, it's a short meeting, but we want to make sure everybody is heard as well. And if there is nothing else, if you have anything else, please raise your hand. All right.
I just want to say thank you to the committee. This is a volunteer position. You're serving on behalf of our students and our community. You know, it's almost a 2-hour meeting on a weeknight. So thank you, committee members, for putting in the time, effort, and attention in serving Centennial students and all your support in this process. So a lot of gratitude to you all for turning out and being here. So thank you.
Absolutely. Your engagement is much appreciated. The community really appreciates it. Well, if there's nothing else, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:47 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Board members report to the board meeting at 8 p.m.
Stay on the same link. Stay right here.
Are we staying on the same link? That's a good question, Melissa.
Same link.
Yeah, same link.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Appreciate
Good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Missy.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to ask the board for a slight change in the agenda to reports to have a 4.1.1 moving public input directly after the integrated guidance plan.
Okay, sure. I'm sorry, Pam, can you repeat that again? So you wanted to put
So I'm good. That'll be a 4.1.1 public input for the integrated guidance plan only.
Okay, because right now we have it under agenda item 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to put it directly under 4.1.1.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, and that way people can comment directly after Mo's report.
Okay, rather than switching the superintendent and the integrated guidance report.
Because I know that James likes to, I mean, the way he flows his reports oftentimes have a flow of after the fact. So
Sure.
Yeah, so I thought, oh no, I will just ask for public input based on this new thing that we're doing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's great.
Oh, one more thing.
Sure.
I've alerted the board members that I'll be asking for a roll call on the motion. I should have sent that to you guys as well, so that they can comment on the teacher appreciation.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion in a second, and then I'm going to ask for a roll call vote so that every member can comment on that.
Okay. I love it.
So that way, I'm not trying to do popcorn.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
Right. Well, and depending on the size of your screen, it's always kind of an interesting thing. It's like, where did they go? If they move. So.
And let me know when we're ready at 8 o'clock so I can hit the record button.
Okay.
So please know that that's.
Board members, if you're hearing this, if you could unmute yourself and say you're here, or put your camera on so I can see. Hi, David. See you guys. I see Melissa and Jess and Will. So I know when we start, we'll have the quorum. Oh, we're doing good. Oh, we're doing really good. Yay, good for you. All right, it is 8 p.m. So let's go ahead and get the recording started. Board members who are ready to go. Good evening. I'm going to call order the meeting of the Centennial School Board District for tonight, April 23rd. And looks like we have a quorum present. And the first thing that we need to do is approve the agenda. And I'd like board members to entertain an adjustment to the agenda tonight. You'll notice that under reports, we have integrated guidance plan, and because we are also required to have a public input specific to that plan, I've added that public input as a 4.1.1 so that public input can come directly after the presentation. We won't have a lag, the superintendent report and then a lag back. So we'll just take that break at that time. So if I could get approval of the adjusted agenda as commented, I'd appreciate that.
So moved.
Seconded.
We've got our move in second from Director Harden and Director Stanley. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that. So the introduction of guests actually is hopefully we're talking about all of our teachers this evening. And this happens to be the time when we have our Teacher Appreciation Week. And I know as board directors, you've been reading our agenda, and we have a proclamation that the governor has prepared for school districts. And I'd like to read that first into the record, and then I'll be asking for a motion to approve acceptance of this proclamation. So here we go. Teacher Appreciation Week. Whereas teachers serve in partnership with the parents of our community's children, and whereas teachers strive to instruct students to read with comprehension, write with skill, and communicate effectively and responsibly in a variety of ways and settings. And whereas teachers teach our community's children to know and apply the core concepts and principles of mathematics, social, physical, and life sciences, civics and history, geography, arts, and health fitness. And whereas teachers inspire students to think analytically, logically, and creatively, and to integrate experience and knowledge to form reasoned judgments and solve problems. And whereas teachers help our students understand the importance of work and how performance, effort, and decisions directly affect career and educational opportunities. And whereas we support our teachers in their mission to educate the children of our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Centennial School Board District, well, it says Centennial District Governing Board, designates the week of May 5th through the 9th, 2025 as Teacher Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Centennial School District calls on the community to join with it in personally thanking and recognizing certified staff for their dedication and devotion of their work. Having read the proclamation into our record, appreciate a board director making a motion.
I make a motion that we accept and approve the governor's statement. Absolutely.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. So it's been moved by Director Stanley and a second by Director Andrews that we endorse the Teacher Appreciation Week for May 5th through the 9th. And to that end, rather than just taking a vote by hands as we often do, I'd like to give the opportunity for each board member to comment on this Appreciation Week. And we're going to just go through our board directors alphabetically so I can keep track of everyone. So Claudia Andrews, Director Andrews, would you please start us out?
I am so pleased to be able to acknowledge officially our teachers and what a wonderful job they do for our school. And actually, I'd also like to acknowledge our teacher who's on our board too, and what a great job she does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Harden.
I want to send some gratitude to our teachers, and not just for the things listed on the proclamation, but the whereas, but for all the other tasks and duties that they do. They're there for our kids. There's Band-Aids, psychological things, helping kids navigate life, what's good on TV, different all the different aspects, speaking to parents on behalf of the student, really using all of their professionalism and skill set to advocate for the students in their classrooms and in their schools. It is amazing the number of duties that they take on and do the best that they can at. So thank you, teachers. Thank you to you all.
Thank you, Director Harden. Director Lynn.
Yeah, of course, our appreciation to all our teachers. I'll keep it short, but I just know, personally, and as a father of a Centennial student, even a single really great teacher can make all the difference, in a student's day and in their experience in our schools. So we really send our appreciation out to them.
Thank you, Director Lynn. Director Moran.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think I'd be here without what teachers have done for me in the past. So I just want to, take a moment and say thank you to everybody in the teaching profession. You are the folks who shape the future every day, and your patience, your passion, your dedication is very inspiring. And I love that when I was in school, there were teachers who saw the potential in me, even if I didn't maybe see it in myself at the time. And I know that that happens every single day in classrooms. And so that time, that energy, and that heart is very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Upmore. Director Stanley.
Well, I have a deep love for teachers, obviously. So I fervently hope none of you are listening, actually, because I hope you are all doing something else that has nothing to do with school in any capacity. But thank you for all of the extra things that you do. And it is no weird thing that this happens in May, because springtime in teaching is bonkers. So take that big extra thank you that is given to you in spring and know that your board supports and cares about you. And I am uniquely situated to understand what you are doing on a daily basis. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Director Stanley. Thank you, board members, for your comments this evening. So we have a motion. It's been moved and seconded. We've had comments. So may I call for our regular type of voting? All those in favor of the proclamation indicate by saying aye.
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 Doesn't sound like there's anybody opposed. Thank you, teachers. You are the heart of our district. We appreciate it. And now we have to go on to the more mundane things that we do at a board meeting. And that'll happen when I find the agenda in front of me. So it's the approval of minutes for April 9th. If someone could go ahead and move to approve those minutes, please.
Motion to approve the minutes from April 9th.
Second.
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 Thank you, David. I might have spoken over you. I apologize. All right, we have a motion and a second, Director Harden and Director Lynn, to approve the minutes of April 9th. All those in favor indicate by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, directors. Appreciate that. So tonight we're moving into the report section. And as I mentioned earlier, the report is going to be given to us, reported to us by Director Mo Callahan. I don't know if Superintendent Owens, if you needed to do some kind of an introduction for us, please. And then after that, I will go ahead and read the statement as we go into the public comment section for specifically this integrated guidance plan for 2025 through 2027. So Superintendent Owens.
Thank you, Vice Chair Shields. I'd be happy to pre-pen this presentation with a little editorial commentary in advance. And I would say for that, we have the integrated guidance plan as part of ODE's requirements as of a few years ago. There is an integrated guidance plan that is required, and it is done every 2 years. The initial one that was done coincided nicely with our strategic planning process, Roadmap 27. So we were able to do that process for the strategic plan while simultaneously satisfying the requirements of the integrated guidance plan and align our corresponding budget. We are required to do this every 2 years. And so even though our strategic plan is a 4-year plan, we are mid-cycle, and that is intentional so as to allow a chance to reflect and to course correct if there's any adjustments that need to be made. In this case, we were able to use the profile of a graduate articulation process to help couple in terms of the community input and feedback that we were desiring to do this plan. And so Director Callahan will go ahead and present this evening. She's probably fuming silently inside that I might have stolen her thunder on a few of her talking points. Nevertheless, I'll go ahead and turn it over to her to lead us through this evening.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Owens, and good evening, Board of Directors. And actually, you set it up nicely, James. This evening, I'll present the 2025-27 Integrated Guidance Plan for the Oregon Department of Education. Here. The purpose for this report is to share the plan and briefly describe the development of the plan. It is also an opportunity to gather additional input. Later this evening, I will request board's approval of the plan. We first submitted the integrated plan in the year 22-23. The state designed the integrated plan to merge various programs under one umbrella. It was intended to reduce burden and redundancies and to improve how we track our progress. This chevron shows the 9 different programs that share the similar elements and goals that are listed along the right side. It's important to note that the bottom portion that are designated as targeted are considered, those are the programs that get funded. The continuous improvement, everyday matters, and career-connected learning are intended to be embedded in the targeted programs. The next 2 slides describes each program in more detail and serves as a reference to the reader. Both the targeted and the embedded programs focus on all the elements of an education program that would promote student success, with an overarching driver to reduce disparities for student focal groups. The following slides are related to the development of the plan. Our planning process has been ongoing with the implementation of Roadmap 27. In addition, we built upon the 2023-25 plan, which also included community engagement. This year, we've been developing the Centennial Profile of a Graduate, which outlines the key skills and qualities we want to cultivate in students. There are specific state requirements to be followed in the planning process, which are listed here. We're also committed to using the tools that assist us in making sound decisions that are student-centered with our focal students at the forefront. The community engagement process continues to reinforce our need and our want to give students and families more opportunities in the decision-making process, like how to improve schools and the design of the profile of the graduate. We're striving to get different viewpoints and to remove barriers to people participating. It's important to us to build real two-way relationships with family and community partners. Our comprehensive needs assessment analysis indicates mixed results in early literacy, with kindergartners growing in reading while first grade progress is slow. Reading growth is insufficient in grades 3 through 12 to meet district goals, and English learners show inconsistent progress across schools. While CTE students have high graduation rates, there's a need to improve their reading and math skills. The Centennial Integrated Plan, which is also reflected in our Roadmap 27, is designed to ensure every student is ready for the future by focusing on literacy, student engagement, and career readiness. Essentially, the integrated plan includes practical implementation of Roadmap 27's vision, translating those broad goals into focused actions and outcomes. The intended outcomes for this plan are similar to Roadmap 27, as both focus on key areas like literacy, student engagement, and preparing students for the future. Also, there are key strategies to help students succeed. We'll focus on implementing our profile of a graduate at all grade levels, improving the literacy, creating a sense of belonging, and expanding career opportunities. Centennial is continuing its commitment to dropout prevention, middle and high school electives, and after-school sports, classified staff development, and college-level opportunities. In addition, we're maintaining key investments in career technical education, Centennial Virtual Academy, ELD supports, systematic communication, mental and behavior supports, and strategic plan implementation are also being maintained. While facing budget constraints, Centennial is strategically adjusting investments to support key priorities, including adding kindergarten education assistance and pre-K early literacy TOSA to strengthen early literacy. Changes include refining the Freshman on Track program, shifting funding for mental health support, and reducing out-of-district special education placement to maximize resources within the district. To streamline services and to reduce expenses, the district is integrating the college and career program with high school counselors and adjusting staffing for the Centennial Virtual Academy. This slide concludes the Centennial portion of the integrated plan. The following slides are specifically related to the steps with ODE. ODE will review our integrated plan using these measures. The longitudinal performance growth targets will also be used in monitoring these the five main metrics. ODE will not be revising the current district targets for 2025 to 2027. I know you've seen this before. These are the Centennial targets. These targets include a baseline, which is a minimal expected improvement, a stretch target representing significant improvement, and then a gap closing target specifically aimed at reducing disparities between our student groups. It is crucial to prioritize equity in our work to ensure that all students, regardless of their background, have the opportunity to achieve these targets and succeed. This slide outlines the process for approval of the 2025-27 integrated plan. Our plan will undergo a thorough evaluation process for approval, after which it will be known as the integrated plan. The deadline for submission is April 30th. Based on your approval of the plan, we'll be able to submit before the 30th, and then it'll go through a process of review, and by committee, they'll analyze and evaluate our plan and provide feedback to us. The co-development of LPGT, they will not be doing that. They had anticipated doing another round like they did in 2023, and they decided not to do that. So we'll maintain the targets that we have. With that, that completes the Centennial Integrated Plan, and I welcome any questions or comments.
Board members, this is an important task of ours, and so let's take the opportunity to make sure that we let you speak to it. So we'll go alphabetically again. Director Andrews, any comment or questions?
No, I really don't have any comments other than alphabet soup, acronym city. I'm getting better at knowing what they are, but otherwise, great job. I think that it's the right thing to do. It just is very complex and complicated.
Thank you. Director Hardin.
Yes. How did this plan align with Roadmap 27 as well as the ODE requirements? Did we have to tweak things to our Centennial focused roadmap to what ODE wants us to do?
That's a great question. When we originally set forth this plan in 2023, we did a lot of the heavy lifting there to ensure that the outcomes that we had in the integrated plan were aligned to Roadmap 27. And so then it meant looking at each grant, the requirements of the grant, and what were those strategies that would best line up with the strategic plan, which we were able to do pretty readily.
Okay. And then one other question, this is more directed probably towards Paul, but what are the financial, like, I take it we didn't receive extra money from ODE. with this plan. But were there extra costs incurred?
Great question. How's my audio for everyone? I had to switch over, so thanks. Okay. There were not a lot of costs incurred this round. There were costs incurred in the previous round of integrated guidance when it was brand new to us, and we had to work quite a bit on the strategic plan, and then also working with Performance Fact and others to kind of align everything. And Director Callahan can build that out further as needed. So there were no additional funds provided. This is the integration of existing grants. Allegedly, it seems like it's doing all the reports at the same time. There's not much integration going on as far as like paperwork. There's integration and strategies. Obviously, they work hand in hand and work very well together. But as far as additional funding, there isn't any additional funding to come with this. An additional cost now is minimal ongoing to prepare these reports and align funding and complete the requirements.
Yeah. One thing that I would add to that is in 2023, the Chevron did not include comprehensive school improvement or targeted school improvement. That's at the bottom of the Chevron picture, nor did it include early literacy. So they had included the funds for CSI, TSI schools starting this year. And then next year, the early literacy grant, which started this year, will then be folded into the integrated for the 2025. It's, clear as mud.
Are you good, Director Hardin?
Yeah, it seems, yeah, I think so. Clear as mud.
Director Lynn.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Director Maring.
No questions. Appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Director Stanley.
I have one clarifying question. Is the kindergarten EA and the TOSA in response to the early literacy component?
Yes.
Okay. It seems like then all of the puzzles of all of the mandates have shown up, which
yes.
is great. So, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, directors. Superintendent Owens, before I go into the public input section, do you have any other comments?
All I will say is just appreciation for Director Callahan. She will be riding off into the sunset soon, and has done a nice job in shepherding our integrated guidance requirements along the way, and ensuring that there's alignment and congruence between what we're doing here, and as was noted previously, that there's congruence with our strategic plan as well. So I think that's been a job well done, and I know it's a heavy lift to get all of this organized for submission, so just appreciation to her for that.
Thank you. So it's required, as I understand, that we give the public an opportunity to comment on this plan. So prior to opening that up, I'm going to ask that our administrative assistant, Mr. Grindle, go ahead and help me with this, but I'm going to go and read through the public comment statement. During this public input section of the agenda, individuals are welcome to share constructive feedback on the presented 2025-27 Integrated Guidance Plan only. The board will not hear any testimony related to any other topic, including comments regarding any individual district staff member. Statements by members of the public should be concise and will be limited to 3 minutes. Please be aware that the board will not respond to public input, and all comments should be directed to the board vice chair. So this opens up our opportunity, and Ms. Grindle, you will be taking care of anyone who raises their hand or in other ways indicates that they would like to make comment.
Yes, I will. And so if anybody in the attendees section would like to speak, please raise your hand and I will bring you over as a panelist so you can make your comment.
I always think music should be playing during these silent times. I don't know if you could hear the frogs, croaking outside of my door.
Pam, we want kids to learn to sit with silence a little bit. We can do it too.
Okay. We have 3 attendees, and none of them have indicated an interest in commenting.
Correct.
All right. Then I'm going to close public input at this time, and we will move back to our regular schedule. That just sounded silly. Regular agenda, which is our superintendent report. So, Superintendent Owens.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Shields. I know it's been a lot of meeting this evening between the Budget Committee and this board meeting as well, and a lot of presentations. So I've got a straight up medium-sized report this evening and hopefully somewhat engaging and interesting. So greetings, board members. It is my pleasure and privilege to share with you this update about happenings in our school district. Every year, Centennial School District celebrates Administrative Professionals Day to show appreciation to the administrative support staff across our schools and offices who work diligently to keep our schools and offices going. The job title of administrative professional is more of an umbrella term for jobs in that category, and there's hundreds of jobs that fit that description. We have many to thank across Centennial, including Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Board of Directors, Missy Grindle, who is operating this evening's meeting, and if you can see, from the office in Centennial School District. So on behalf of the board and administration, I offer my thanks to Missy for her hard work and support, as well as all of the other administrative support professionals across Centennial. As mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this year's Teacher Appreciation Week is May 5th through 9th, 2025. While I believe expressing appreciation should be a constant practice, celebrating our licensed staff during this designated week offers an opportunity to take a moment to say thank you and show gratitude for all that they do. In recognition of our licensed staff, we will be having a Teacher Appreciation Breakfast on Wednesday, May 7th at the Centennial Middle School cafeteria from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Board members are welcome to attend, and you will soon receive a calendar invitation from Missy. And you can see pictures from last year's event on the screen. I mentioned this in my report earlier this month, and it's worth mentioning again. Our annual Connect to Kindergarten event will be held on Thursday, May 1st from 5 to 7 p.m. in each of our District 6 elementary schools. During this event, attendees can meet the principal and teachers, learn what to expect during kindergarten, tour the school, explore a school bus, visit a kindergarten classroom, receive information, and register for the EKT or Early Kindergarten Transition Program, the dates of which will be available in May. School tours will be happening between 5 and 6 p.m. with online assistance for registration available from 6 to 7 for those families who wish to enroll during the event. Any child who will be 5 years of age on or before September 1st is eligible for enrollment in kindergarten at their designated neighborhood school, and our district website contains information and instructions on how one can register their child online. I mentioned EKT, which is a component of summer learning, and I'll talk a little bit more about summer learning here. Last Thursday, the Senate passed 2 bills, House Bill 5047, which appropriates $35 million for summer learning grants for 2025, $35 million for 2026, and $12 million for June of 2027, as well as House Bill 2007, establishing which programs qualify for the summer grants, and now those House bills await the governor's signature. Our team is currently in the process of determining the scope and plan for summer learning. Once again, the funding is coming through very late to be able to effectively stand up programming. That said, the fact that there will be predictable funding will be very helpful in moving forward in future years. By virtue of both the legislation as well as district priority, this year's focus will be on literacy, with particular focus paid to our multilingual students and those with the greatest opportunity gap. We anticipate the scope of the program to be smaller than last summer. We intend to continue our partnership with Sun. We anticipate designing an effective summer school program for Centennial students. More details about both state funding and our internal planning are anticipated in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. Oliver Middle School is developing a food forest. A food forest is a garden designed to mimic a natural forest with edible plants and fruits arranged in layers to create a diverse and sustainable ecosystem. The forests also help capture greenhouse gases, as well as providing educational opportunities for students, combining learning about nature, nutrition, and sustainable practices. This project is funded by the Portland Clean Energy Fund, or PCEF, student-led initiatives program, which provides $15,000 annually to each middle school in Portland, which for Centennial is only Oliver Middle School, to complete projects focused on greenhouse gas reduction led by students at the middle schools. This is our inaugural project for the PCEF Student Initiative funding. In future years, there will be further projects to correspond with further funding. Led by Oliver Middle School teacher Melina Maltese, students from the OMS Environmental Club engage in hands-on learning as they explore, design, and plant the sustainable food forest space. On April 17th, the Environmental Club led sixth grade science students in the planting of the food forest to engage more of the school in this project and to allow them to watch the food forest grow and expand as they proceed through their next 2 years at Oliver Middle School. Last Friday afternoon, I joined Director Southerton and Director Wright for a tour of the new Centennial Transition Center building. The renovation project is well underway and should be finished in the next 4 to 6 weeks. On the screen, you can see some pictures that I took during our tour. As a brief reminder, the Centennial Transition Center serves students with individualized education plans, or IEPs, who have graduated with alternative diplomas. The purpose of the program is to support young adults in their transition to life after high school. The key focus of CTC is to help young adults build independence and quality of life, with an emphasis on preparing students for independent living, employment, and linking them to appropriate community and adult services. As you will recall, within the past couple of years, the board approved the purchase of a building on 160th for a district-owned permanent home for CTC and subsequently approved funds for its renovation. CTC was the only Centennial school program to be housed in a rental space versus a district-owned facility. This led to uncertainty, inability to adjust the facility to support evolving needs of the program, and financially was a poor investment as the district paid all the costs but did not have the benefit of the real estate asset. Funded by the Board Reserve Fund for one-time capital improvements, the building has undergone substantial renovations designed to best support CTC students, including moving walls, creating multiple instructional spaces, all new flooring, ceilings, lighting, ventilation, fire life safety systems, and life skill teaching areas. We anticipate having a grand opening event in June after renovations are finished and students to begin attending in September of 2025. Finally, a few key highlights on the government relations front. Last Friday, Chair Solowski and I joined other East County superintendents to meet virtually with Multnomah County Commissioner Vince Joan Dixon and his staff to build relationship and rapport, and to better understand his priorities and to reinforce our concerns about proposed county reductions to Sun and mental health services. On Monday, on the heels of the Reynolds School District's substantial proposed budget reductions, Representative Ricky Ruiz reached out to me to learn about the status of our budget and whether an $11.4 billion state school fund is sufficient. I provided him with a preliminary response summarizing main points from tonight's proposed budget presentation. Interim Government Affairs Administrator Pooja Bhatt plans to be supporting the development of a joint message from East County districts detailing the budget impacts in hopes of a higher state school fund allocation. Next Tuesday, East County superintendents, along with Director Lynn and myself, have a meeting with Portland Mayor Keith Wilson to discuss our budget priorities and to reinforce our concerns with proposed reductions to SUN programming. This will be directly followed by a meeting with District 1 counselors for Portland. Both meetings will be at Portland City Hall. These efforts reflect a coordinated East County approach to elevating educational needs and ensuring our students and schools are considered in critical policy and budget decisions. I plan to provide more updates as budget season and the legislative session progresses. And with that, I invite any questions or comments you might have, and this concludes my superintendent's report.
Board directors, are there any questions? Director Andrews?
CTC, I saw your note last week, and so I decided I'd just do a little turn around there and see what it looked like. And I was a little disappointed to see that I think we sacrificed 2 parking spots for a dumpster locking area or something. I'm sure that's what the city required, but so are we expecting that we won't need a lot of parking, or will overflow parking go across the street? What's the plan there? That's the first thing on CTC. And then secondly, in your photos, James, is that thing with the handle, is that the elevator?
Yeah, it's a lift that was put in as part of the renovations project, obviously to allow students with disabling conditions to be able to access the upper story. And as far as the parking, as Director Southerton and I and Director Wright toured, I had some choice words myself about the fact that multiple spaces were sacrificed for that garbage facility. Nevertheless, Director Southerton has some ideas about how parking might be facilitated otherwise. I don't know if they're ready for prime time or public discussion, but I'll turn it over to him to see what he has to say.
So great observations and questions. Yes, it is required by the city, and it is unfortunate. We pushed back on it and appealed, and we lost. And so they require that structure. They require it to be 10 feet off the neighbor fence and in from the right of way. And so that did relieve us of 2 parking spaces, 2 of the 10 parking spaces. So we're exploring opportunities with the neighbors directly behind the building. They have a parking lot that is underutilized, to say the least. And so we're exploring some kind of agreement with them to see if we can utilize it, at least just during the day, for staff and for students who may drive, or for other folks in the vicinity. That being said, the current facility, we only have 10 reserved parking spots at the current CTC facility. So the new facility will have 8. It's not a dramatic reduction, although we are now adding staff and we are adding students with the insourcing of programs. So it's definitely a need that's been identified and we're exploring.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to a tour at some point. I think that'd be great. And, I also thought that it might be fun to have a retreat there, or some other, maybe set it up so that it could be used as a different board meeting site than just the district office.
I think that's a great idea.
And Director Andrews, also, you didn't mention this, but since you drove by, one of the things I didn't show was the exterior of it, because it hasn't had much change. And so the exterior is going to have a pressure washing and a painting, so it'll look different than what you see now. Director Southerton, I don't know if there's anything to add to that.
Spot on. Just like most construction projects, whether it be the gym or be anything else, the landscaping and the exterior is what gets finished in the final. So pressure washing the landscape, or the building, cleaning up the landscaping. We'll do what's called a seal coat of the parking lot. That's the fresh top layer and restriping. And so we'll make sure it looks great for when students and staff arrive.
Any other questions, board members? Seeing no hands or
Oh,
any other. Oh,
just wanted to say I'm super happy to see the food forest and looking forward to seeing how that develops.
thank you, Director Lynn. Director Stanley.
Can we all just say thank you again to Missy because she helps me remember everything I forget? And it's a really hard job. She has a lot to do because you've met me. So just another thank you to Missy.
Thank you, Missy. Any other board directors? Thank you, Superintendent Owens, for your report. Board directors, I'll bring you back to our agenda. We are in confirmation items, and I would love to have a motion to approve en masse.
Motion to approve confirmation items.
Second.
So Director Lynn and motioned, Director Stanley seconded to approve the confirmation items as listed in our agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you all. And that late aye was not a problem, right? Okay, good. It was like, I heard it a little later. So we are on to board action items. Looking at the time, we started at 8 o'clock. It's been 45 minutes. I'm going to try to go until 9 and see if we need a break at that particular time, and I'll be checking in with you about that. So old business items, approve the electric bus purchase. Director Southerton, you're on for that.
All right, I'll try to make this short and sweet since I've had a lot of speaking time this evening. You've probably had enough of me, but I'm back here with we're seeking your approval for the purchase of 2 new special education school buses. The purchases will be fully funded by grants, and there'll be no matching funds required from the district. The grants are from Multnomah County and from the Portland Clean Energy Fund. Electric buses, like cars, are more expensive than conventional fuel buses due to the technology, batteries, and other costs of manufacturing these types of buses. So you'll notice in the board note that the request is for $900,000 for 2 buses. That is, they are indeed an average cost of a little over $400,000 each, and then you have the charging facilities that go with them. So $300,000 will be provided by Multnomah County, $600,000 will be provided by the Portland Clean Energy Fund. And with this purchase, 2 diesel-fueled buses that have exceeded their useful life will be retired when these buses arrive. The district has completed review of available electric buses, pupil transportation needs, and statewide competitive procurement contracts. And we're ready to proceed with ordering the 2 buses. So we're seeking your approval this evening. It is recommended that the Board of Directors of Centennial School District approve the purchase of 2 new electric school buses for a total price not to exceed $900,000 and grant the superintendent, director of business and operations, and their designee the authority necessary to sign documents needed to complete the purchase. With that, I welcome any questions you may have.
Board members, do we have any questions?
I do have a question on the 2 diesel buses that are past their useful life. What do we do with buses when they reach that stage? I don't see them at the pick and pull on Foster, right? So.
That's an excellent question. So we follow the surplus property board policy, and so we offer them for public sale. We are currently using the third-party government deals platform, and so Multnomah County and several other school districts use that for surplusing obsolete property that is no longer needed for serving students or for the missions that those nonprofit agencies provide. And so that will be our process for the policy. So if you want to buy a 2005 diesel school bus that that we no longer need and have to remove as conditions of the grants, you're welcome to bid on that. I'll let you know when it gets posted.
What do they go for?
We have not. Let's see. The last couple of buses that we surplused with other grants or that were just obsolete and no longer functional. Went for about $1,500, $1,500 to $2,000. I think there's some people that I don't know, for lack of a better word, are kind of auto tinkerers or collectors, and I think there's some people that are scrap metal people or parts people that bid on these. So
Great,
we
thank you.
debrand them. We take all the Centennial identifying, signage and stickers and everything off of them, and so before we surplus them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of these buses?
I move to approve the purchase of the 2 electric buses.
Second it.
We have the motion by Director Moran and a second by Director Stanley to approve the purchase of the buses as presented. All those in favor indicate by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, board directors. We're now into our new business section, and this is 7.2.1 school calendar adoption. Dr. Katsuda, I believe that you're on for this. Where are you? I don't see you.
I'm probably on
There
your
you
side.
are. There, I found you.
Yeah.
It was like I had to go through all of the different places.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Director or Superintendent Owens needs to do any introduction on this. We're just going right to Dr. Kasuda.
I'll always take an opportunity to prepend, but nevertheless, yes, we have calendars before you 'tis the season, and Dr. Kasuda will lead us through what has been developed.
Thank you.
So we're seeking board approval for the 2025-26 school year calendars. It reflects 172 student learning days on a trimester schedule. It accounts for or allots for orientation for 6th and 9th grade at the start of the year, as well as a staggered start for kindergarten. And of course, all of the winter breaks and spring breaks and all of that. Amounts to 192 teacher work days. And as you see there, accounts for a staggered end of the year, which still allows us to achieve our instructional minute requirements by the state. So you see a lot of the details reflected in the board note, as well as the 2 calendars uploaded that reflect the calendars across all levels in schools and programs. It's recommended that the board approve the adoption of the 2025-26 school year calendars.
Thank you. And if we have any questions, could you direct your questions to the specific calendar, since there are 3, but I would like a motion to approve all 3 when we get through with any specific questions. And I'm going to start out with the question, Dr. Kasuda, remind us of the process. I mean, it's detailed, but we do have a process, right? That it includes many voices.
Yes. And it's generally been the same over the years, although the size of the group has shifted based on the work we wanted to engage in. But we assemble a committee, a calendar committee that's representative of various employee groups in the district. And we take into consideration all of the requirements for the calendar, which includes a certain number of work days for staff, as well as contractual requirements around report card prep, conference prep, trimester prep, things like that. We attend to pay very close attention to the required instructional minutes. So there's a list of requirements we have to really pay attention and attend to as we construct the calendar. And just try to use logic model and can very much consider the community. So if we are thinking about particular days we'd like to combine for preparation for staff and teachers, whether it be report card prep or what have you, where that falls. In determining where that falls, we consider the impact on community to the best of our ability. There's not much give and flexibility when you consider how many days we're looking at setting up for staff, work days for staff. and then the instructional minute requirements, and then where holidays fall. So if you look at just the constructing a traditional calendar, there really is not that much to work with. It's just a matter of where you place certain days. So yeah, there's a bit of a process, and we meet over a series of sessions. And by the time we're done, we have a calendar. Yeah.
Thank you. Director Stanley, you had a question?
I do. I have a hard time toggling back and forth between everything. Can you tell me if there are any huge differences that maybe I overlooked between the calendar from last year to this year? Any huge shifts or changes?
There are not huge shifts and changes. I will say one that many people may appreciate is that we don't have a additional non-work day for staff, or non-work day for staff after winter break. Last year we attached that to after winter break for a variety of reasons. This year that's placed in May. And we've looked at the calendar to consider when there are long spans of time without a break, and thought the April-May months are particularly difficult, and they're instead of placing that one day after winter break, which is what we did last year, we placed it in May.
One more continuing question with that. Were there any shifts with report card planning and prep being combo days, separate days, different times throughout the trimester, particularly just thinking of elementary school?
Yeah. So we've tried to combine as many of those days as possible, so that we have a solid full day off. And where that doesn't happen is where it was really difficult, right? And so you'll see, I'll have to reference one of the calendars, and I don't have them memorized, but you'll see, for example, I'm looking at the high school calendar. And for elementary, I'll have to pull that up. But for the high school, we tried to combine trimester prep and report card prep. So there was a full day off, because feedback we received from students, families, and staff is a half day of school is not very effective for a lot of reasons. And so, yeah, you'll see that as a feature. But that's always been a goal of ours, is to try to create some consistency between the levels. So if there's a day off at one level, there's the same day is off at the other, even if it's for a different kind of prep. The idea for our families is that we have students off in the same day. So we did our best to try to align that between the two levels.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was getting lost in the 6 different versions of the calendar. So thank you.
Director Hardin.
Yes. How much consideration goes into the trimester versus semester process?
Well, the calendar committee did not review a semester process when we established this calendar. That was not a goal of ours, as at that time that we were assembling or creating this calendar, that was not an issue for us to grapple with at that time, right? So you'll see here the calendar are presented in a trimester format, because that at that moment was what we were hearing all schools were on board with and wanting to continue with. And as we move forward, we'll have to revisit that as we consider maybe some other alterations that the calendar may have to go through. But for now, this is what the committee put together.
Okay.
Any other questions, board directors? If not, may I have a motion to approve the calendars as presented, excuse me, in the agenda this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Director Andrews, we've got a motion, but we need a second. Oh, David, did you get the second in there? Thank you. Director Andrews motioned and Director Lynn seconded. All those in favor of approving the calendars as presented in tonight's agenda indicate by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
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 Thank you so much. Anybody abstaining or? Oh, all right. We're good. Moving forward, and we're looking pretty good with our time here. can we go through the 2025-26 governing board meeting calendar? Oh, presented by the chair. You've seen the draft. This is, again, accommodating for what's different. Missy, was there anything that you would like to, I know Superintendent Owens, of course, you've reviewed this, but I know that Missy also worked on this. So either Superintendent Owens or Missy Grindle, if you could help any kind of clarifying or information you'd like to provide about the calendar.
Superintendent Owens, would you like me to take this one?
I defer to Executive Assistant Grindle.
Okay, great. So the draft governing board meeting schedule that was presented in your board packet is very much a mirror of this year's schedule. So it is our business meetings fall on the second Wednesday and our work sessions fall on the fourth Wednesday. Now, there are a couple pieces that you'll see within here that may change a little bit. So I'll point out July 30th is a date we worked with board leadership on to potentially identify as a full day board retreat for the board for the summer. So that is something that can be discussed here. It's not set in stone, but that was a date that was thrown out there. So certainly that's a date that we want to look at. The other dates, again, mirror what we did this year. We have one meeting in November, one meeting in December, one meeting during spring break in March. And lastly, the last meeting in 2026 is on June 17th, which falls outside of our regular sequence meeting schedule because of the high school graduation, Centennial High School and CVA graduation. So we pushed that to June 17th, which will also help with the budget process as well, giving them a little more time to develop that for the 26-27 year. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, and it's here for your consideration.
Thank you. Director Stanley, a question?
I just wanted to talk about the meeting on the spring break time. I think that is a time when a lot of people go away. So I just am wondering if we can look at that date as not being a typically scheduled time and maybe talk about March being a little bit tweaked, not having a meeting during a vacation week.
The March 11th date that you'll see is not during the typical spring break week. It's the second Wednesday of March, which falls in our typical alignment of meetings. Is that what you're referring to, or are you thinking it falls under spring break? There's only one meeting in March, which will be the regular business meeting because of spring break. Exactly.
Any other clarifying questions about, and it is a draft. If there were something that obviously we can adjust as needed, but we needed to get this out to you as soon as possible so that you could put these dates on your calendar. And if you really did find that there was a concern or you couldn't make it, that you'd be able to talk with board leadership and see if another proposed date. In particular, the July 30th is what we wanted to get in front of people, because we do have usually a full day training for board, and we'll have new board directors at that time. So may I have a motion to accept the draft for the board meeting schedule as presented this evening?
Motion to approve the board meeting schedule.
Second.
Motion by Director Harden and second by Director Stanley to approve the draft board meeting schedule. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Good job. All right. Anybody object? Oh, all right. Lastly, and we're a little past 9, but I hope you can hold out for it. This is the approval of the presentation that we had earlier from Director Callahan for the integrated guidance plan. Superintendent Owens and Director Callahan, any other thoughts or comments prior to a motion for approval?
Seeking your approval for the 2025-27 integrated plan. No other comments.
Motion to approve the integrated plan.
Second.
Excellent. So we have a motion to approve by Director Harden and 2 seconds by Director Andrews and Director Morin. Yay. Any other discussion? Okay, let's call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the integrated guidance plan indicate by saying aye and show your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, board members. I didn't see anyone dissent from that. All right, we are down to future agenda items. That would be you, Superintendent Owens, to help us with that.
All right, our next board meeting is scheduled to be in person on Wednesday, May 14th. It's looking to be a busy one. We're tentatively planning for the following future agenda items. We have a couple of introductions of new administrators. Director of Curriculum and Student Learning, April Olson, is planning to be in attendance, as well as Director of Human Resources, Marin Miller. We also have Pleasant Valley Principal, Christina Anderson. She's unavailable to make it that evening, so we'll have her at a future date. We have a handful of recognitions. So we have recognition for Devin Kautza as the Oregon Transitions Teacher of the Year. Triple C recognition that's being coordinated by Chief Communications Officer Christine Andreg. A recognition of our student representatives who will have their last in-person report, and hopefully Mr. Miller will be able to share with us a little bit of information about what the transition plan looks like as well for next year's student rep or student representatives plural. A slate of reports. So we have a K-12 health adoption. We're looking for a nod, yes or no, from Director Callahan, which will also be a new business item. Comprehensive sexuality education plan report, student rep and superintendent report as usual. I also have on the slate an update to the construction excise tax rate. We punted the updated meal prices to this next meeting. We also punted the recommendation and appointing of district equity committee members. That was not quite ready for prime time, and we're hoping that it will be at that time. And perhaps a couple of policies, which could be our graduation policy and our artificial intelligence AI policy. So lots on the docket. Back to you, Vice Chair Shields.
Thank you. Board members, anything for the good of the order? Come on, Director Lynn, you're usually right there with us.
There's a bunch
I
of
have
stuff,
one.
but it can wait till next meeting.
All right, thank you. Director
I have a
Andrews.
quick one. It can't wait. May 3rd, Centennial Invitational, Centennial High School track, big time. Be there.
Thank you. And they're always looking for volunteers, right?
Oh, wait, I forgot about one. We are sponsoring a cleanup that's happening at in Park Lane, the church next to Park Lane Elementary this Saturday for bulky waste items. So if you're looking to get rid of mattresses or anything like that, we're sponsoring an event with the community. So
that's this Saturday, this coming Saturday, yes?
yes.
Got it. Director Harden, you were seconding Director Andrews about the invitational, is that correct? About the need of volunteers?
Centennial Invitational, there are volunteers needed. I think there's 30 teams this year where there were 6 last year.
Oh my gosh. Director Stanley.
The thing.
Just we have the closet operational for the caps and gowns. So if you could spread the word about caps and gowns donations, you're welcome to talk to me about it. You could probably talk to Jess, as Adrian is helping organize it. But it has a system in place to communicate with students about borrowing and returning. So I think all systems are go for that. So if you hear of anybody who has a need to donate, please send them our way.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent work, directors, this evening. All right. Hearing no other go to the orders, anything else? All right, we'll call this meeting of the Centennial School Board adjourned at 9:07 p.m. Thank you so much for all of your time and effort tonight. It was a big lift